basically a full-time Andretti driver now. That Andretti has kind of merged the team, Harding Racing, into a program. So be very curious to see how things go in year 2 for Colton Herta. And certainly for Felix Rosenquist, now that he has an idea of what all the tracks are, with the exception of Richmond, which joins the schedule this upcoming year, I think we could see a breakout from Felix Rosenquist. And, of course, the big news this week, Ganassi expanding to at least 3 teams with the addition now of Marcus Ericsson.
Yes, that was a big press release that came out this week. And what was I going to say? I had in my mind, I don't have my notes right here with me, but I was going to make a comment about that. But that was kind of a surprise.
Well, it says one thing is you have a bunch of Ganassi employees that are probably going to be out of a job if not for this team. As people have been aware, Ford is ending their GT program in IMSA and Le Mans competition, the FIA-WEC as well. So that leaves a bunch of Ganassi employees without work. This, I think, is a sympathy move from Ganassi to ensure those people are not laid off and to still have jobs for this year at least, if not the future. There has been talk possibly of a re-expansion to 4 IndyCar teams. There's been some talk maybe a Connor Daly could be in the mix, maybe for a seat, maybe even a James Hinchcliffe. But you look at the situations right now, and the thing is, I'll be very curious to see what happens. In fact, I'm hearing rumors for David Land this past week that James Hinchcliffe is talking to possibly Ray Hall Letterman about a seat for 2020, if not 2021. So that's all of a sudden interesting that things have maybe taken a turn now that McLaren has gotten involved with the Schmidt-Peterson program. Maybe they are looking for a new leader as opposed to James Hinchcliffe.
Well, you got to wonder about. I saw that thing, that rumor, and again, this is the funny season. That's why they call it the funny season. The rumor mill does go. I mean, I'm friends personally with James Hinchcliffe, and I will tell you that he's not said anything to me about a change. But and I even asked him about that. He said, he's always looking at options. That's what he told me the other day. He said, just always looking at options, and there's nothing there that comes from him. And obviously, he wouldn't tell me personally, but it does make an interesting conversation if he goes over to Letterman. You can't see them going 3 cars, so that makes you wonder what's going to happen with Soto with Letterman.
Well, the thing is, they've already confirmed that Sato is back with them next year.
Sorry.
Deal with Honda. I think he is the main thing that they have the Honda deal, that he has to be one of the drivers. So if indeed Hinchcliffe is talking with Ray Hall, that would tell me that they are looking at a third entry. That's something that Bobby Rahal has said, that he has had an interest in possibly expanding to 3 teams. It's just been a lack of sponsorship to do it. Now, of course, the big thing is they also have an employee issue at Rahal because there's question marks on whether BMW's GT program will return for 2020. So that also might leave several Rahal employees without employment for next year. So that may allow and provide the opportunity for them to expand to 3 cars.
I tell you what, that's where it's at. It's the money, it's the sponsorship. So we'll see what kind of sponsorship that they get. Let's kind of look at the 2019 season. Let's kind of give our awards, if you will, our mock awards. And I would say the comeback driver of 2019 has got to be one of the greatest stars of the race right now, and that's Simon Pattison.
Yeah, from going from a ride where he looked like he was on the way out, I think everyone was talking Rossi, and everyone was convinced that if the guy was going to lose his ride, it was going to be Pagenaud. Has a big run in the IndyCar Grand Prix and then dominates the Indy 500. And he certainly has earned himself another at least a year or 2 more with the captain's men for the foreseeable future. So certainly, Pag certainly earned his paycheck this year. The question is, can he keep the momentum going? He's been a hot and cold driver over the years, so if he does fade back in 2020, I would not be surprised.
No, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Scott Dixon. Remains the Iceman, the number 9 PNC Honda, Chip Ganassi Racing. Even though he finished fourth in the standings, if you will, This team gets, in my opinion, gets the nod, third overall. And Chip Ganassi, what a season that he had, and still had the Rookie of the Year. I mean, Chip Ganassi is right there on the verge of another championship.
Well, there always are going to be a contention with it because they have the experience, the wherewithal. They know what it takes to get there and stay there as far as competitiveness. So that's no surprise. The thing is, though, question is in my mind is how many years left of the tag does Scott Dixon have? Still involved with family stuff with he and his wife Emma.
Emma's getting ready to have a baby too.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. And the thing is, you want to be competitive, but you also don't want to be just sitting there and just running at the back of the pack, kind of like what's happened to TK and happened to Elio. So I'm starting to wonder how many more years before either Scott Dixon peels back his schedule or says, I've had enough, I'm done. That may not be that far away at this point.
No, absolutely. You're right about that. And Scott Dixon, what a model driver, what a model dad, model husband. This will be his third child, and I follow him on Twitter and Instagram, and Emma also on Twitter and Instagram, and they are getting ready to have their third child. So you're right. There's a lot of things going on there. Like Alexander Rossi, though, I tell you what, he was the talk of the nation, if you will, the talk of the world going into 2019. Would he stay with Andretti? Turns out that he will, and it's kind of odd to say that he's the captain of the ship. It's not Marco, which bears the name of Andretti, and we'll see what happens with Marco. But certainly Alexander Rossi is the face of, and now Colton Herta as well on the other limb or leg, if you will, or branch, if you will, of Andretti Autosports.
Well, let's get one thing clear. Marco was never the leader of that team. If there was a leader with Andretti, it was Ryan Hunter-Reay. It wasn't Marco Andretti. But you're right. Alexander Rossi certainly helped himself last year, made the progress, and backed it into this year as well. He's certainly going to be the leader of the Honda brigade, I would say, as opposed to Scott Dixon. And I think if you're looking for a guy, and I think with all the former winners that are in the field, there are not many potential new winners other than maybe Joseph Newgarden that are left in the Indy 500 list. But if you're looking for a guy to win his second Indy 500 coming up next May, I'd say Alexander Rossi is at the top of the list.
Matthew, are you running a marathon? Are you on a treadmill or what? Sounds like you're about to lose wind there.
Allergy bug always happens when the temperature rises or falls as my allergies kick into high gear.
Oh, I'm just rousing you. How about Will Power, though, the number 12 Verizon Chevrolet Team Penske? For a brief moment there, we talked about Colton Herta's team was about to take this position, but I'll tell you what, Will Power, number 5, is still not number 5, I'm sorry, he's the number 12, but in my number here of notes that I have, number 5. Never mind. Will Power, Verizon Chevrolet Team Penske. What are your thoughts?
It's more hit or miss than I would like to see from a guy that's a championship contender. But the big thing in my mind is with Will Power, still is a road course ace, maybe not so much as he was in the past. I mean, obviously he's a lot more competitive on the ovals now, so that road course king thing kind of has gotten shoved behind the bars. And also, of course, the presence of Rossi has, I think, a lot to do with that as well. But I think as far as contenders, he certainly is up there if he can get off. But the thing I think that he needs to do is he needs to get off to a good start in the season. The last few years, he has gotten off to horrendous starts to start the campaigns, and that's just killed him in terms of the championship. He's got to get out to a better start, be in the contention from the word go, and add to that, he's got to find a way to beat his teammate Newgarden, who seems to have his numbers, especially on the road course events.
You know what? We can't let you go without talking a little bit about the new aero screen. I mean, I know it looks like the IndyCar drivers are in the Popemobile, but I think it's a great addition, and I think all the drivers love it, and it does not obstruct any type of view. What are your thoughts about the new aero screen that's going to be we're going to be seeing out on the track in 2020?
people keep forgetting about this thing. I think this chart makes the card even more streamlined than it was in the past. And if you're talking about, if you want guys that are challenging that track record in Indianapolis, this is the way to do it. Make the car more streamlined, make it break through the wind a lot better. I would not be surprised if we are talking where it's maybe even a 229 average doesn't get in the field for next year's Indy 500.
Well, I tell you what, I think it's the best thing that IndyCar has done for safety in a long time. All right, let's go to it, man. Tonight at Notre Dame, I wish I was there at that game tonight. It is going to be one for the record books. USC visits Notre Dame. And I tell you, we're going to get into this again in the second hour with Rick Riggen, our official college football contributor, and Tony D from the Tony Donahue from the Tony D podcast. But the Trojans and the Irish, always a good battle. Give us a preview of what you guys are talking about there at WSBT.
Well, my colleagues Darren Pritchett, Eric Hansen, and Sean Stiers are saying this is a 2-touchdown game. I think it's a lot closer than that, especially now that Keaton Slovis is in there. And I still have question marks as to whether the Notre Dame secondary has the speed to stay with these receivers. I mean, yes, but the one thing, if you go by the last 5, 6, 7 games between Notre Dame and USC, what has been Notre Dame's common problem? They have had trouble with these fast receivers, especially when they get out in the open. That has always been a problem with them. Now, Brian Kelly keeps saying the team speed has improved with this team, but I haven't seen it. And until I'm one of those people that's the ultimate pessimist on these things, I have to see it to believe it. And until I see where they're able to keep those receivers in check, it could be a long night, especially if Keaton Slovis gets his act together and starts completing passes early in this ball game.
What's with Ian Book and the interceptions?
I think he's just trying to force it. You have a case where you have a favorite receiver, and you lock onto that receiver, and that receiver right now is Chase Claypool. And the problem is these defensive backs get smart. When you lock on your receiver, they are looking at the whites of your eyes, and they already know where the ball is going. So what do? They jump the route, and that's how you pick off passes. And that's the thing I think with Book is he needs to stop locking onto receivers, keep some multiple options there, keep the defenders guessing. And that's why I would like to see, Cole Kmet get the ball a little bit more, maybe even a Brock Wright get the ball a little bit more. Keep the defenders guessing so he doesn't go to one option. That's what causes these interceptions is he locks on to receivers, and the receivers or the defenders get smart, and they're able to jump the route.
Yeah, that's why they need to stick to the running game. And the unfortunate thing, if the Trojans can stop the running game, they're gonna close down the Irish. And the problem being is, I mean, even though they're having a great season and we're still only halfway through the season, I would think that if they lose to USC, the talk about the Final Four playoffs are going to be out the window with Notre Dame.
Well, it's still a long shot for Notre Dame, even if they do run the table. You look at the schedule and who is left and who is on the list, and there just isn't a quality win that I think would move them up. That right now, at this point, they need some help. They need some of the big teams like Clemson, Alabama, Georgia to start hitting losses. I just don't think 11-1 on its own is going to be enough to get Notre Dame into the top 4 at this point. Even though they did have a competitive loss to Georgia, I just don't think that's going to be enough to get them all the way there unless a few of these teams start having problems and start losing games left and right. If it's not going to be that, even 11-1, I just don't think it's going to get them all the way into the top 4.
Well, we'll see what happens as we roll in tonight. It's going to be a big game, obviously. Let's talk a little bit about some college football across the spectrum. In today's game in the college football top 25, what are your locks or long shots or any thoughts on any other games going on in the college football top 25?
Well, I haven't kept a close eye on it, but I don't think there's going to be – obviously the one that sticks out is Alabama against Texas A&M, but I just don't think Texas A&M has the firepower to really give Alabama a run for their money like some people think. I think they're just looking for a thing where Alabama has a close shave, I guess you could say. Georgia, has a pretty easy situation, I think, tonight. And then, of course, their big game with the cocktail party next week against Florida. I think that could be a test for them, even if Kyle Trask is not at the starting line. Of course, he had the injury last week, did come back, but he's still not exactly at 100%. And you